The finale of the Game of Thrones disappointed all of us, but we guess HBO has got a solution for that in the form of Jon Snow's adventures beyond the wall. Join us in today's video as we reveal to you Game of Thrones stars giving an optimistic update about the Jon Snow sequel series cast. Are we really going to have a Jon Snow sequel? And the answer to this is definitely a yes. So, earlier this July, some close resources revealed that HBO plans to develop its early sequel to its fantasy drama, Game of Thrones. So yes, a Jon Snow spin-off is already on its way, guys. While the work on the sequel is already in progress, news has speculated that, ironically, the title for this spin-off is Snow. You guys might already remember how in the final season, Snow came to know about his real name being Aegon Targaryen. And with that, he also realized that he was most probably the heir to the Iron Throne. Despite knowing all the facts and figures, Snow departed from Westeros in the final season and was forced to move north of the Wall with the Wildlings. So, why did Game of Thrones come to an end? Honestly, Game of Thrones has been a series filled with many twists and loopholes. One of the most opposed decisions of Game of Thrones involves giving the throne to Bran Stark, even though Jon Snow deserved it big time. With that said, Jon Snow wasn't made the king. Instead, Bran Stark, a wheelchair-bound adolescent who vanished for the whole season, was made king. And this, of course, made the fans furious and puzzled as they were left with a lot of questions unanswered. But there are possibilities that this is the main reason HBO is coming up with a new Jon Snow sequel. Many fans also speculated whether Kit Harington would return as Jon Snow or not, and HBO made sure to not leave him behind. We all know what Jon Snow could do without Kit Harington, and because of this reason, Kit Harington will obviously return to the series and be in the sequel. But his return leaves the door open for many other characters back to the sets of the Game of Thrones sequel. Game of Thrones cast about the Jon Snow sequel. So, first of all, we will talk about Maisie Williams, aka Arya Stark, and what she has to say about the Jon Snow sequel coming into life. Everything surrounding the story is very exciting. We had such a rich show, and there's still so much story to tell. When asked about Kit playing Jon Snow, her response was, "And I think that kid is such a phenomenal actor. Him playing Jon Snow is just like a cultural reset. I think everything that he touches is magic, and I'm excited to see what it's going to be." Another phenomenal character played by Gwendolyn Christie, Brienne of Tarth, had some heartwarming words to share. "Brienne of Tarth is incredibly close to my heart, and I would relish any opportunity to revisit her. I believe she is enduring." With that, John Bradley also portrayed his desire to come back as Samwell Tarly. I haven't spoken to anybody about the potential Jon Snow sequel, but if somebody wants to send a script my way, I'd be interested to read it. But not everyone is anticipating a return. With that, our very own Emilia Clarke, aka Daenerys Targaryen, revealed that she has no plan to return in a BBC interview. "I think I'm done." Who's making it to Jon Snow's sequel? So, are you excited to see who has actually ended up in Jon Snow's sequel? We would also tell you that we don't have any surefire findings about the cast, and we are sharing everything based on what the cast has said. So yeah. Another reason we don't know much about the sequel is because the series is in its development stage. Like the date or trailer, nothing has been shared yet, so we are just guessing from what the cast of Game of Thrones reveals about the sequel. Let's start with the very known Emilia Clarke, who actually revealed that she isn't planning to join Game of Thrones again. Guess she's going to give us a surprise when she instantly appears in the sequel. So there are some good chances of Clarke returning to the show in the sequel. In a recent interview, she passed on a handful of comments about the Jon Snow series. At first, she started by defending Dany's actions in Season 8, where the character actually survived. She said, "I still think Daenerys did nothing wrong. It's not fair that Jon gets to live. I want Daenerys with him. With Jon, they could go to family therapy and fix their issues. Daenerys is a very hopeful character. She has a lot of hopes, and I wish that she was able to achieve that." The story she got in her head seems unlikely to ever happen. However, when she was asked whether she would appear in the Jon Snow sequel, she hinted a yes somehow. "Never say never," Clarke laughed as she answered. So, is she going to have a comeback? We mean, why not? We have already seen a lot of characters coming back to life on the show, and it's most likely that she would come back as well. We could already think about Snow having his time in the frosty north, remembering the warm night spent with his Aunt Daenerys. Now, one thing many fans have revealed is that even though Daenerys was better when dead, it's still technically possible that she could be alive in the sequel. Another thing, if Dany's body somehow ended up back in Essos, it is possible that they could bring her back to life using black magic. So guys, you have to anticipate the unexpected because this is a Game of Thrones sequel. What's more on the Game of Thrones sequel? The snow. Right now at this time, there are no official releases from HBO itself about the Game of Thrones sequel. Like, yes, they did confirm that they're working on it, and even Kit Harington revealed that the series will come onto the screens. Still, it's yet to be specified when it would be that time. One resource from a Facebook page also revealed that the series would have an iconic song by author George R. Martin. One interesting fact about this song is that it is related to ice and fire, so we can spot the irony here. Besides the song and the series name, HBO announced that they will start working on the series by the end or the start of December. So we guess we still have a lot of time to wait and anticipate many things about the series. Here, we would clear out one thing. We don't have authentic sources to back up what these Facebook posts had to say. Even though we researched the whole internet, there are still no such announcements by HBO. Guess it's just fan-made, or it might be real too. But for that, we'll have to wait endlessly. However, one thing we are definitely sure of is that HBO is working with Mr. Harington, aka Jon Snow. James Hilbert first confirmed the news when he released an article, and further, Emilia, aka Daenerys, also confirmed the news. In an interview, Emilia Clarke revealed that HBO is working on the Jon Snow sequel, and when she was asked how she was so sure about the news, she further added that the man Jon Snow revealed it himself. Makes sense, right? Just when we were puzzled about whether the series would make it to the screens or not, George Martin took it to his Not a Blog website to confirm the big news. He briefed fans about how Jon Snow and he himself were working on the Snow just like he had worked on other shows, including House of the Dragons. He also revealed that Jon Snow was the main person who explained this idea to HBO. And not only is he the mastermind behind the whole series, but he also brought his own writers and even directors. So we are sure that the show is real, and a time will come for it to be released. Some fans have also been speculating that there are chances that the Snow sequel will be able to correct all the past mistakes Season 8 has committed. And this led many fans to think that maybe there would be a retake of Season 8 too. But then again, the Snow sequel can play exactly the same role. What's more in the future from Game of Thrones? We already know the internet has given us a lot of prequels and sequels about Game of Thrones, so it's already clear that the Game of Thrones isn't going to end sooner or even later. Almost all of these prequels and sequels have not been turned into episodes, except the House of the Dragon. This is the only spin-off of the Game of Thrones that actually winded up into episodes and will be available to watch on television. There are no promises about who could be in these prequels or sequels, or we could see some new faces. So, what are your thoughts on which Game of Thrones character would make it to the Snow? Are we going to have some fresh characters? Share with us in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next one.